Tammy Clark. Tammy, would you also explain to people what it is you do and your qualifications? That would be helpful for the audience that may not understand it fully.
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me. So I work in the field of occupational safety and health. I'm an OSHA environmental health and safety specialist. I have been working in the fields of health, safety, regulatory compliance for over 15 years. I have taught in the classroom at the university level. I work with national clients all over the United States, from very, very large firms down to smaller individual companies on the local level or my city scale level. So basically what I do for a living is work with organizations to, number one, make sure that their employees are safe. We look at the exposures to chemicals, exposures to pathogens in their environment, exposures to environmental toxins, or it may simply be heat, saws, presses, whatever. It depends on really the risk it's a risk analysis and then a risk solution type of work. So I work with lots of different types of industries, from construction to manufacturing, even to medical healthcare facilities and systems. Coming in and taking a look at what does the individual organization's health, safety, and compliance program look like? Is it effective? Is it keeping people safe? I review their records to see, are we having trends in any particular direction that we need to focus on? For example, are people getting a lot of lacerations or cuts, or do we have a lot of exposure to chemical gases or things like that, so that we know where to focus our energies and to create strong solutions and better performance on the safety side of things, the health and safety side of things. Part of the work also involves compliance with regulatory agencies. So I look at the company's overall health and safety program. I look at the performance. Is it effective? And then we kind of roll up our sleeves and we get to work after. I typically start with a SWOT analysis with companies, looking at their internal strengths and weaknesses and their external opportunities and threats and things like that. And then once we've identified where they're weak and where they're strong, then we can get to work building on their health and safety program and looking at how compliant they are with government regulatory agencies like OSHA, EPA, DOT, things like that. There's a lot of regulatory agencies involved in the workplace occupational safety and health field, making sure that employees are basically healthy and safe at work. So when the whole mask conversation started coming up, that was a real red flag to me. And it was something that other environmental health and safety professionals started chatting about behind the scenes, because this is not healthy for people. We were not designed to breathe with our mouths and noses covered. And so I started doing some videos on this and some trainings on this, probably, I would say, 6 weeks ago or so. And some of those things have gone viral. And I've since had an opportunity to address some of the questions from people coming back to me saying, well, what about this? What about this? People trying to discredit me because what I'm saying does not fit the narrative that is being pushed. We're all being told to mask up. I'm in a state that I live in Michigan, and I'm in a state that is, our governor is particularly tyrannical and really ruling the state unilaterally, not working with the legislator, overruling them, overriding them. And so it's very much a dictator type of situation. And my concerns for the mandates that she's dropping are the kids, really. I'm concerned also, obviously, because I work with employees in the workplace situation. I'm very concerned for the adverse health effects that I'm seeing with employees. And this is why OSHA actually has respirator standards. OSHA has PPE standards. And when it comes to kids, just because I know basically what happens in the workplace when you violate these things, and I see the adverse health effects, I deal with the workplace illnesses and injuries all the time in my line of work. I know what is coming for our kids, and I'm very, very concerned. I'm a mom myself. I'm a new grandma, so I have a new grandbaby. And so this really kind of sparked me to get involved, to take some action, and to start speaking up, because we are not hearing from any PPE experts, not one. We are basically hearing from 2 doctors, and they have been wrong on everything. Their models and their predictions have been wildly wrong. And the things that they're wanting us to do now, even wear a mask inside of your home. We're hearing things that are, I know from my field, from my expertise, what I've been doing for many, many years, they're going to create very dangerous, very unhealthy situations and illnesses and long-term illnesses and injuries. In fact, we're already seeing some of those things. We're seeing pleurisy being diagnosed more and more. We're seeing maskne, what we call maskne. It's an actual type of dermatitis that is showing up on the skin. It looks like bumps and pimples and red spots on the face from the increased moisture exposure with a bacteria buildup. And it's actually creating some infections and rashes. Dentists are now seeing what they call mask mouth, an increase of bacteria in the mouth causing really stinky breath and bacteria buildup and increased cavities and things like that. So that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of what we see with reduced oxygen levels. And I, as an OSHA credentialed safety and health professional, I have been very concerned with what OSHA is doing with this. This very agency that was created in 1970 to protect workers, to keep people safe on the job. One of their stated goals, their mission, is to protect the American worker from workplace health and safety issues, to keep America's workers healthy on the job. Now, what they are doing is they're actually becoming an agency that is enforcing something that is creating employees to get sick. I'm hearing from people all over this country, and to be honest with you, all over the world. I've got people from Australia reaching out to me, England, Canada, just everywhere, saying, you know, we can't breathe. I'm getting headaches. I'm getting migraines. I'm getting nauseated. I'm getting lightheaded. I cannot work in this mask. And there's a reason for that. We were not designed to breathe with restricted oxygen intake or reduced carbon dioxide expirations or output. And so we are creating some very serious issues. And like I said, this is why OSHA created the respirator standard in the first place. And we all hear the term PPE thrown around a lot, but people in my field understand that this term has been used incorrectly. PPE stands for personal protective equipment. A homemade face mask or a surgical mask was not designed to be PPE. It is not personal protective equipment. In fact, in the workplace, employees cannot even bring in their own masks. In order to wear a mask, you must be medically evaluated. There is a long questionnaire and a medical evaluation that you have to go through just in order to be able to wear even an N95. Then you have to be fit tested. You have to make sure that the fit and the seal is proper. You have to be clean shaven if you're a man. Now we're taking people, and in the beginning of this, I was watching these N95s be handed out like candy, and OSHA would cite my clients for putting their people in N95s if they didn't go through the respirator program, if they didn't follow OSHA's respirator standard. Now we're passing these things out like crazy. And OSHA's turned a blind eye to this. And I'm thinking, and those in my field are thinking, what is going on here? This is incredibly dangerous. OSHA has taken a complete 180, but they are being weaponized against our businesses. Instead of being there to protect workers, now they're the very ones enforcing something that is creating a very unhealthy workplace and a working condition for employees. And employees have nowhere to turn. So this is really, really a dangerous precedent that we have set here. And I have been saying from the beginning, we are going to start seeing some very serious outcomes from this, because this is not healthy. This is not normal. And we've already begun to see some of those things happening. I've talked to a lot of people who have developed long-term industrial type bronchitis and respiratory issues from wearing even masks with the N95 and the N100s, even with a proper fit. When people work long-term in these masks, they do develop issues a lot of times. And so now we don't know what's going to happen. We're just telling everybody, even 2-year-olds in my state, 2-year-olds, that's a baby in diapers with a pacifier still. And babies are supposed to sleep on their backs with no blankets and no toys in the crib because we don't want them to suffocate. Now we are intentionally suffocating them. We are smothering them with these masks. We're going to see strangulations. We're going to see choking issues. And the nasal, the doctors, there's been an incredible panel of doctors that I really enjoyed listening to, but they can attest to that. The nasal passages in these little ones are very tiny. And then we're going to restrict the airflow even more. We're going to see the SIDS and the strangulation and all of these things continue, because this is just incredibly dangerous, and it's insane what we are doing. So I got involved out of my concern as a PPE expert, understanding that what we have done is we have made homemade face masks, we have made dust masks, nuisance masks, actual PPE. Now we're telling people this is your personal protective equipment. And so we need to be following the PPE standards then. And yet, where is OSHA on this? We're not. We've just thrown all these OSHA standards to the wind. And OSHA's coming back and they're trying to defend themselves. They're trying to say, they even came out and said, a face mask is not PPE. Yes, but when you mandate it in the workplace, you just now made it PPE. So how you can't have it both ways. So there's just so much to the depth of this. And there are a lot of things that, people have come out against me and tried to debunk the things that I've said. And there are a lot of things I could get into in depth with that. For example, why can hospital workers work in masks all day long? I will have nurses and hospital workers stand up and say, we can work in a mask all day long, so it's not a problem. That's not true, the things that you're saying. But what they don't understand is that it's people like me who come in and we actually work on the contractor side of things and the testing side of things, that those ASHRAE the standards and the engineering standards that are based on OSHA's requirements are the design elements that goes into the HVAC and mechanical systems in hospitals and in medical facilities. The doctors and nurses don't understand that. There is increased airflow cycles that are happening in all surgical centers, in hospitals and medical facilities, because it's a very carefully controlled microenvironment. And that's for infectious disease control, basically. So those environments are cooler. The humidity levels are kept at a certain temperature and a certain humidity level. The microenvironment is carefully monitored. And so with those increased air cycle exchanges, there is an increased airflow and there's more oxygen in those rooms and it's cooler. And so they are able to work in those surgical masks for long periods of time with no issues. It's not the same thing as a cook standing over, a hot stove or hot grease, or a construction worker working in 90-degree temperature with high humidities. We are seeing that the side effects of that and the health effects of that right now, because that is not the way it should be done. And my concern is that we need to have some accountability here for actually creating very unhealthy, very unsafe, very dangerous workplace conditions by just mandating that everybody blanket has to work in a mask, without medically evaluating them, without doing fit tests, without even knowing if these people are medically fit enough to be able to tolerate a face mask. So that's where I'm coming at this from a very high level of concern, especially with our children.